guys, and welcome to today's Blancos podcast. Today, we are going to do some transfer rumours. It's been quite a while since we did the last transfer rumours. We're here in the international break, so I thought we might as well do something to do with transfers. You know, coming to January, we've got a good gauge on how the squad's going to play out. So I just want to discuss some transfer rumours that have cropped up, I've heard about, seen in the news. And let's start with the main transfer rumour, I think, that Real Madrid have been linked to, and that is Alphonso Davies. I think we obviously have discussed in greater length about Alphonso Davies' strengths, how he's going to fit the side and stuff like that. But basically, we've got a price tag now, and we've got some more news. Agent of Alphonso Davies has said he would like to go to Real Madrid. Stuff like Man City and Real Madrid are heavily interested. He's going to be the main transfer target for next season, and people often forget that Alphonso Davies is only 22 years old. We remember the run in lockdown where he was absolutely incredible. The game against Barcelona where he was amazing. He's been around for so long that we forget he's only 22 years old. He's fantastic, and I think he could fit this side so well. So, what are your thoughts on the Alphonso Davies rumours right now?
Alphonso Davies is, of course, one of the best attacking left-backs in world football. Of course, he had some issues last season defending Bernardo Silva. However, how many left-backs or midfielders have we seen have issues with Bernardo Silva, even Virgil van Dijk? So a lot of people will hold that against him, but I personally will not hold that against him. I would personally count it as an off night for Bayern Munich and himself. But at just 22 years old, he's younger than our new signing Garcia, who is quite young, and maybe regarded as a future. So I would say Davies would be a good option long term. Of course, it will serve a left back for years to come. So hopefully, if we can sign him at a cheap cost, then of course we can look at the right back position as well, because he would definitely be a good signing. He's physical, he is strong, he takes football quite seriously, and he works hard, of course, and he's a good character as well, positive character in my opinion. And of course, from Canada as well. Would that be another EU spot, or has he been in Europe long enough? I'm not too sure. I have to get more information on that. However, if we don't, he would be, of course, the first choice, because Theo Hernandez maybe is unattainable. However, if he's not attainable, and let's say he gets a new contract at Bayern Munich, then maybe we can go after Miguel, in my opinion, who is doing well in Spain and has 40 million release clause. However, we have 50% of his rights, which is just 20 million in case he continues doing well this season.
Yeah, the rumours have been that he would either it'd cost between 60 million euros or 80 million euros. Now, if you look at the bottom end of that price, 60 million, it's an absolute bargain. You have to do that deal. There is no question to ask. 60 million euros is an absolute steal for, in my opinion, Europe's probably best left back. 80 million is definitely a little bit more steep, but I still think it's probably a fair deal in this market. Paying 80 million for Alphonso Davies in a market where Madrid goes for 100. You look at Kai Havertz going for 70. You look at other players going for such high deals, and then you look at Alphonso Davies, who's probably going to be a guaranteed hit. I think 60 to 80 million is an absolute no-brainer to go after Alphonso Davies. So next up, I think, is another strong rumour that Real Madrid have had, and that's in the event of Mbappe turning his head round against Real Madrid once again. Real Madrid would go after Julian Alvarez. I think we've discussed Julian Alvarez before. Like I said, I think for me, he is an absolute phenomenon right now. I think right now he's got 6 goals, 5 assists in all competitions for Manchester City. He's been their best player this season, in my opinion. He's been better than Haaland. Haaland has been a bit dodgy at points, and when Man City have needed a goal, it's been Julian Alvarez that has stepped up. The only problem now is that what we look at is, I said we should sign Julian Alvarez in the summer. The problem now is that he has become a starter. He has become a starter for Manchester City, and therefore it's unlikely Man City are going to be willing to sell. So then we have a different problem in signing Julian Alvarez. But what are your thoughts on Alvarez?
I think he's a person we have always spoken about for the past year, or I think maybe a year and a half, in relation to being a transfer target for the club. He's a guy that we wanted. When he scored the 5 goals for River Plate the season before the last one. And of course, when he went to Manchester City, we saw it as a blow because he is such a cheap option for a player who is quite versatile and can play through the middle as well, because at that time we needed a centre forward. We had trained on EU spots, and of course, as he went to Manchester City, all of them opened up. So that's a bit disappointing. I think the situation with that is that, like you said, he's now started at Manchester City. Last year he wasn't. However, it's going to make it a bit more difficult. I'm seeing here that we are also linked to Victor Osimhen as well. Out of both of these guys, if cost isn't a factor, who would you think it would be the best option for Madrid?
I think Osimhen's a better player. I think Osimhen is a better player, but in terms of fit, in terms of this dynamic attack, and in terms of everything that we have here, you can just like. You can put this guy there, put this guy there. I think Julian Alvarez fits perfectly, especially if Mbappe comes as well. And you're talking about Julian Alvarez, playing on the right, potentially playing on the left. He can do everything that you need. So I think Julian Alvarez is a better fit. I would be more than happy to have Victor Osimhen though.
For me, like you said, Julian could definitely link up play, and he can definitely be a good defender. And Ancelotti even said that Osimhen is the best attacker when it comes to being strong in the air. So that's quite a good compliment for Ancelotti. Maybe he's seeing him as a potential target, if he wants to stay here long term.
Yeah, 100%. I would be more than happy to have Victor Osimhen here as well. Next up is a young man for Rennes, who have obviously sold us Eduardo Camavinga. So I would trust Rennes in selling their players. And it's young Desiree Doué. Now, if you don't know who he is, he's 17 years old, playing for Rennes. He's been playing this season, last season. He's been, maybe start at some points, maybe coming off the bench. But he's been really, really, really nice. He's been a really good player. He's been really promising. And what he's impressed me with is his all-round game. I think in terms of his defensive ability, I think it goes underrated. He's actually quite combative, really, really good defensively, but also, he's obviously a very, very good dribbler. He's really good going forward, can take on a lot of players, and especially in a physical league like France. For a young player who maybe isn't developed physically, to be as brave as he is to go at these defenders, I think it's very, very remarkable. It gives a certain look to Camavinga. I'd be very, very interested by Desiree Doué if I was Real Madrid, and especially if going into a couple more years, I wouldn't pull the trigger on him just yet, but I would definitely keep a lot of tabs on him, and Real Madrid have been keeping tabs on him. They've sent scouts to watch Rennes games. So what are your thoughts on Desiree Doué?
Yeah, the first impression is quite good now. He seems neat on the ball. He definitely seems like he is good enough to make the final pass and sometimes finish. Well, he needs football. Of course, his finishing was excellent. Of course, we'd have to see that translate a bit more to the first-team football as well. However, if you're looking at it, you have to definitely say that he's a talent for the future. Step by step, maybe he can become a Madrid player. If we just wait a bit and maybe check out the course at the best possible time. The good news is that in the future, when a player is normally in France, it's not as costly as a player that plays in another league. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, and obviously we like dealing with France. There's a lot of young players, especially this guy who's coming up next. Now, I discussed him in the summer, Leny Yoro, in that centre-back video I made in the summer about Real Madrid's future at centre-back. Now, we've obviously got to find the partner to Militao long-term, because that's obviously not going to be Alaba or Rudiger because they're slightly older. Young Leny Yoro, only 17 years old, plays for Lille in France. And I think there's one really, really good comparison that I can make, and that's Rafa Varane when he was this age. I think both of them really good on the ball, really, really carries the ball well, and is both really quick, really, really good at passing the ball out from the back. And I think the good thing about Lenny Yoro is that he's not like a Militao type defender where he comes out, tries to stop the attack in his track. He's slightly more conservative in that way, and I think that complements Militao quite nicely. Obviously, he's only 17 years old and hasn't fully developed, so we don't know what he's going to be in the long term. But I think he's got all the necessary marks to be that partner to Militao. To complement their styles really, really nicely. So, what are your thoughts on Lenny Yoro?
Yeah, of course. In terms of the interceptions and the slide tackling, I can definitely see where you got the Rafael Varane comparison. I think you can definitely see similar traits to that when he made his debut at Madrid. So of course, I haven't seen much of his ball playing ability, if I'm being honest. But in terms of his interception and his tackling, it's quite good. When it comes to centre backs, it's maybe good to give them maybe a couple more years to see exactly how good they are when they play in bigger competitions against bigger players. I think that's why we signed Militao, if I'm being honest, because of his performances in the Champions League, firstly. When he starting in big Champions League nights. So I guess we for a centre back, if I'm being honest, I guess I like to wait a bit and see how good they are on big nights to see how they can cope with talented players before we make a move on them.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing like a Kylian Mbappe test for Lenny Yoro, because that was one thing that Varane was very good at a young age. He was very good at playing against big time players, and yeah, I look forward to seeing how he fares against those type of players. Next up is a guy who's been really on form this season, really, really on form. A lot of you may not have heard of him. Serhou Guirassy plays for Stuttgart in Germany. He's Guinean international. This season, he scored 13 goals in 7 games. Now, he's not young. He's 27 years old. He's not old either, but he's not young either. And I think that's going to be a huge concern. If he was a bit younger, then you would talk about a guy who's definitely in our thoughts. But I think if you want a guy who's going to be a goal scorer, who wants to just score goals, then you've got this guy who's been absolutely remarkable this season. Almost scored 2 goals a game, which is incredible. I don't know how long he can keep that up for, but so far Stuttgart have been absolutely incredible, and he's been the main man for them. I think Guirassy is slightly taller. He's a bigger guy. Really good in front of goal, composed, smart in front of goal. He's been about in across France. I think he was bouncing around a lot of clubs. Ended up at, I think his most recent club before Stuttgart was Rennes as well. So, what are your thoughts on Guirassy? Because he's been really fascinating to see this season. This guy scoring a lot of goals.
Yeah. And if you see the goals, his finishing is quite composed. When he's in the box, he can beat his player in the box. Not and it's not like any bit of skills. It's just his footwork it's a bit neat. It's a bit because he's so calm when he's about to shoot. He can pick a corner. He can. His defenders will have to keep a close eye on him, because when he was 1-on-1, he can cut back. He can shoot it in any corner. He's so composed. He times his runs to perfection. He's quite quick as well. Not as fast as, of course, Vinicius or Mbappe are one of them, but he's quick to beat his last man if the ball is played in behind, and that's definitely one of the best traits a centre forward can have. Quick to beat the last man, and then composed enough to find the finish in the back of the net. So I definitely will hope that his form continues, because a lot of German strikers in the past have done quite well in Germany and haven't been able to translate the form into other leagues. But the fact that maybe, I'm not too sure if you understand what I'm saying or if you think I'm making sense, but because maybe he's a bit more mature and a bit more experienced, I hope that one day when he take that step forward, that he is able to, translate the form quicker than guys like Timo Werner or Kai Havertz or any of these guys who made a big move and maybe didn't translate the goal scoring form as much as he thought it would happen. But maybe because he's older and he has maybe a lot more experience, and of course his skill set as well is better than these guys in terms of how composed he is. So hopefully, we can take that step forward. If it's not at Madrid, hopefully get an opportunity elsewhere.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think he is slightly older. He's been bouncing around France. He's been everywhere in France, I think. Yeah, Guingamp. He's been at Rennes. I don't know any other clubs he's played for, but he's that type of guy. He's been a journeyman up until now, and this season's been his first genuine, remarkable season. He can keep it up, I believe. I think he can keep it up for Stuttgart. Not maybe to the two goals a game ratio, but I think he can definitely get to 20. No doubts about that. I think he could probably get to 30 in the Bundesliga. A lot of strikers can do that, and I think if he is asked to do it again next season, I think that's the key thing. If he can do it again next season, you're talking about a guy that can definitely go elsewhere, be a guaranteed source of goals, and make something of his career later on. He's 27 years old. He hasn't got much left. A couple more years. I would say 5 more years at least. I think he's probably got left in the tank. He doesn't rely on his pace or anything. So yeah, I want to see him make something of his career for now. So next up, another Bundesliga player, Serge Gnabry. Now, we've talked about Serge Gnabry here before in terms of rumours, but this is looking like the closest he's been to the exit door. He is just not getting games. He is not getting games, and it's not hard to see why either, because frankly, I would rather play Kingsley Coman on the right. I'd rather play Leroy Sané on the left. I'd rather play Jamal Musiala down the middle, and obviously you're not going to bench Kane. And I'd rather have Muller coming off the bench as well. So it's just seeming like there's just no path for him back into the first team. He's an extraordinary player. He's really, really good when he's on form. We saw during that stretch in 2020, 2021, in that time period, he was just remarkable. He was scoring every week. He was providing assists, scoring outside the box. He was an incredible winger. One of the best in the world. But it's just seeming like he's just fallen out of favour with Tuchel. And yeah, I would definitely give him a go if he's available. 30 million, 40 million, I would definitely give it a go. There's not much to lose there, especially, a guy like Serge Gnabry, where the upside's just so high. You've seen a guy who's been world class in the past. What are your thoughts on Serge Gnabry?
Well, of course, it's difficult for me to want to pull a trigger on a player who isn't in form. Of course, when there are many attackers available who's in form, in my opinion. Of course, Sané would be a good option because, of course, the reports is that he is considering his fit here in 2024 because his contract expires in 2025. So, of course, when it comes to him, if he's not in form, I think it's a bit difficult to want to pull the trigger on him. I think it's difficult that Madrid will even think about pulling the trigger on him, especially because, as you know, when it comes to big-name attackers, the main focus is going to be Kylian Mbappe for now. And if not Kylian Mbappe, then of course I think it's Osimhen or Julian Alvarez. I think those are the main guys who the club might want to look to. I think Serge Gnabry, of course, due to his age, he's getting a bit older now. And he isn't starting much, he isn't in form, so I don't think he's going to light up the Bernabeu officers when it comes to attracting them. He's a talented player, and I believe that he can make an impact. And if he's in the squad for a cheap option, then yeah, but I don't think that it's that much of a necessity compared to like a couple of years ago or even last season. Because of course, even though we have limited attackers, I believe that the position that we need more is like a centre forward. And I think that the management team knows that as well, the board knows that. So I think it's a bit difficult to see him coming to Madrid, if I'm being honest. Maybe if he's a bit younger, he'd have been a good option. So, but for now, we'd have to wait and see.
Yeah, and I would like to suggest Manchester United for Serge Gnabry. I think Man United in the right winger. He needs games. I think that's a good fit for both of them. Next up, another young centre back, Malik Thiaw, playing for AC Milan. He's been really, really regular for them. He's been playing a lot of games for them, and I like him. I like how he's played this season. He's quite good in the air. He's aggressive, which is a bit of a problem next to Militao, which is what I said earlier with Lenny Yoro. You want him to complement Militao. So Malik Thiaw might be a little bit less of a fit in that way, but He's good on the ball, really good at progressing the ball. He is a ball playing defender. I think I like his profile. It's just, do you like his profile next to Militao? What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, he's still quite young, but he's good on the ball, and of course, as a centre back, being composed on the ball is, trade now. I don't think Militao is the best on the ball. He's decent on the ball, so I think if you have a young centre back who is getting better on the ball, of course, that's a positive step in my opinion. For Militao, I think for now he needs like the experienced partner like Alaba or Rudiger, one of these guys where he can develop a bit more. So that's why I think that it's difficult to see Madrid pull the trigger on a young centre back now, especially the reports are saying that Rafa Marin will be coming back next season. He's having a year in Alvarez, and if he comes back next season, that would be good for him, to be like a four-choice centre back. Of course, it's good to see that maybe one of our Castilla players can maybe have a chance of having some first team action, in my opinion, and that's one of the best things I can really see. A Castilla centre back having an opportunity, to have a shot. I think that's maybe better than maybe signing someone if he develops to be a top player. Rafa, in my opinion, he is so far showing a bit that he's a good player. So let's see what happens. I'm not against signing a young centre back, but of course, it's just going to be good just to see another Castilla or a Spanish player in the squad, especially if you're placing Nacho as a four-choice centre back. You'd maybe need a homegrown player. I'm not too sure the quota is. I think it's 8 players. I'm not too sure, but we'll have to wait and see.
Okay. Next up is a familiar name for a lot of Madrid fans, Federico Redondo. Now, if you heard that last name, you might remember Fernando Redondo, legend of Real Madrid. It's his son, Federico Redondo, plays for Argentinos Juniors in Argentina, obviously. 20 years old. He's also the nephew of Santiago Solari as well, so another Real Madrid name. He's obviously got huge ties to Real Madrid, and it's not just that. He's linked to Real Madrid. He is actually a really, really nice player, defensive midfielder, same as his father. Really, really good at absolutely everything. That's what I like about Federico Redondo. He's really, really good at everything. In the defensive midfield role, I think he's a good passer, not an excellent passer, but a good passer. He's a smart dribbler, smart carrier of the ball, and he can definitely defend as well. He's just a good all-round package you can have in the defensive midfield role. Now, obviously, I'm not sure about his non-EU status. I believe he would have a Spanish second nationality, but I'm not 100% on that one. I think he would be completely a good backup for Tchouaméni in the future. I think if we pulled the trigger on him right now, I would not be against it, because obviously we know that this is probably going to be, especially Modric, I think this is going to be his last year. I think this is going to be Kroos's last year as well. We're going to need depth. I think this is going to go from 7-man midfield to 5-man. I think we are going to need depth, and I think Federico Redondo would be a good bit of quality depth in the defensive midfield role. I think that would be a smart deal to go ahead and pursue in the summer if we were to do that. So what are your thoughts on Redondo?
Yeah, I think he's a talented young player, but before I forget, what do you think about Edson Alvarez from West Ham in terms of his ability on the ball as a potential option in the future when Tony and Luka eventually leaves? I think that we will need maybe a player who has a bit more experience and who can maybe play who's calm on the ball, who can defend well. I think he is definitely a talented player, in my opinion. Edson at West Ham, he's been doing well for them as of late. And I believe that a player who maybe isn't guaranteed to start, but he's good enough to maybe start and make an impact, and it could be a seamless transition compared to a young player, because I believe that we have maybe a lot of young players. I'm not saying that we don't need any more young players in midfield, but I'm just saying that maybe to complement the guys we have now, and of course, I think maybe that's why I like Ceballos that much. because he's good on the ball, and of course he can make an impact, and he isn't always going to start, and he'd be happy with that. So what do you think about someone like Edson Alvarez over maybe a young midfielder, another young midfielder, well, a younger midfielder?
I think I really like Edson Alvarez. I think he's a fantastic player. I've always liked him. When he was at Ajax as well, I really liked how he played, how he fit in that side. You know, he's a versatile player, can play defensive midfield, can play centre-back, really good at absolutely everything, good in the air, obviously a Mexican international, good on the ball, and, you know, he is a leader as well. Everything about him is fantastic, but I just think he's too good to be a backup defensive midfielder, and I think he's not as good as Tchouaméni in that regard as well. I think that's one of the problems. The next problem is you're gonna have to deal with West Ham as well. After that, you're gonna have to deal with West Ham, and you know they just sold Declan Rice for 100 million. They ain't needing that money. They can definitely hold out. They just signed him. They can hold out for 80. They can definitely hold out for 80, and that's just not gonna be. For a backup defensive midfielder, I don't think you can't do that. I don't think you can do that. I think he's a fantastic player, can play centre back, can play defensive midfielder, but I just think he's too good for defensive midfielder to back up for backup role. He's too expensive for the backup role, and I just think there are better, more suited players around Europe for that role rather than Edson Alvarez.
No, I understand that. Well, of course, maybe if there's a market opportunity, we'll have to see how that goes. But of course, I think that maybe, like you said, it's not feasible at this time, to maybe spend that amount of money on a stack position. So maybe a young player could be useful, but of course, he's definitely a player that can have an impact on us if he's available at the best cost.
Yeah, and also, I forgot to mention, this is not, we're talking about a guy at Redondo who doesn't play for River Plate, Boca. He plays for Argentinos Juniors, and with respect, they ain't going to be asking for too much money either. They're going to be asking for 15 to 20 million for a decent backup who's close to the Argentinian national team. That's a pretty good deal if I see one. He would develop. He's obviously not Real Madrid quality right now, but I think he can develop, he can get better. So for me, I would spend 15 million, 20 million on that type of guy just to come in as a solid backup.
Yeah, definitely. I can go with that. Especially if he has a good upsell in the future, or maybe he has a good bit of potential to have an impact long term.
Yeah. Next up is another young player, but this guy's 16 years old, Esteval Willian. Also of Palmeiras. Obviously we've signed Endrick from Palmeiras, so now we've obviously got a good relationship with Palmeiras. A lot of big sides are interested in him. We've talked about Esteval Willian before, but the links have increased. He's getting some playing time for the first team now. It just looks good. He looks very, very good. He looks, I don't think he's as good as Endrick, but I think he is definitely another huge talent to come from that academy. Excellent dribbler. He's an excellent dribbler, and I think that's his main attribute. He is just that prototypical Brazilian winger, just absolutely incredible on the ball. And we've seen a solo goal from him. I want to see more from him. I don't want to pull the trigger like we did with Endrick, because I think Endrick's truly a generational talent. I'm not that convinced on Esteban Willian yet, but if we're talking about us pulling the trigger on a young Brazilian, I don't think Florentino Perez would be too against the idea. So what are your thoughts on Esteban Willian?
Yeah, he's still a bit young, of course. I don't think he has shown much at the senior level or at the highest level in Brazil at this time. So maybe someone so far who has maybe some potential and maybe can become a good player in the future. But of course, I think maybe it's best that we wait and see how he develops, to see if we can maybe pull a trigger on him in the future.
Yeah. Next up, Ousmane Diomande from Sporting. Now, Sporting, we've talked about Gonzalo Inacio before, another centre-back from Sporting. I think Ousmane Diomande is better. A young Ivorian centre-back, 20 years old. He's been starting for Sporting over the last year and a half, I would like to say. Amazing passer. He is an absolutely incredible passer on the ball. Let me emphasize how good this guy is on the ball. He is absolutely incredible on the ball.
But do you think that he's good on the ball on just the right hand side, or he can maybe be good on the left hand side as well? Because so far,
that is a little bit of an issue, but I think that is also to do with you would have more space to do what you want in a fullback. You know, he's playing in a 5-back right now with Sporting. I think he would have the space to do what he wants on the left hand side. I think we would have to see. But that's the kind of risk you would have to take. You know, with a guy who's this good on the ball, really good passer, really good carrier of the ball. Not just the passer, he's really good carrying. And it's not just the ball playing aspect. He's a really good defender as well. Really good flat out defender. Obviously, he's playing next to a really good defender as well in Sebastian Coates for Sporting. But really good in the air. Really, really good at just tackling. Maybe not as smart as Lenioro's interceptions and stuff like that. But, you know, he is an aggressive ball playing centre back. I like that in a guy that, you know, it makes him stand out, makes him look like the main man. Maybe that's not something you want alongside Eder Militao, who often wants to be the main man in the centre back role. But I really like Diamande. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I think he would be a phenomenal centre back in my opinion. It's just it's difficult for back three players who normally fit in a back three to see how good they do at Madrid. You know, I think Rudiger, of course, played in a back three a lot at Chelsea. However, he had a lot of time in the back two as well before Chelsea, and of course, even when Chelsea switched to a back four, he was able to, to cope with that. But of course, I think Diamande, of course, he's physical as well. So I believe that he's physical and quick. So I believe that he can cope. But normally, if I'm being honest, the right side would normally be for Militao, where he's most comfortable. I don't think he's that comfortable on the left as he is on the other side. However, we'd have to wait and see. How Rudiger is comfortable on both sides. I would sign him if the cost is effective. If it's cheaper than Antonio Silva, then of course he can definitely be a good option. So of course there's a lot of young centre backs. Who do you think, if you have to pick one out of all the young centre backs in world football, not mentioning guys like Gaviol because he went to City, but with Antonio Silva and Diamande, what do you think would be the pick for Madrid if it's up to you?
There's obviously the next player as well, which we might as well put Adam as well. Giorgio Scalvini of Atalanta. He's also a very nice defender, very Italian type defender. You know, prototypical, adding a little bit of modern into his game as well. Out of these guys, we've discussed Lenny Oro, we've discussed Ousmane Diamande, Malik Thiaw. We're obviously going to talk about Scalvini, and previously we've talked about Antonio Silva as well from Benfica. If I was to rank these guys in terms of playing ability, I would go top Antonio Silva. I would go second Ousmane Diamande. I would go 3 Giorgio Scalvini, and then 4 I would go for Lenny Oro, and then 5 I would go for Malik. Actually, no, I'd go with Malik Thiaw above Lenny Oro, but that is based on how much playing time they've got, how old they are, because Lenny Oro is obviously the youngest out of these lot. In terms of actual compatibility with Militao, which I think is more important, because Militao is obviously, I think for me, I would rather have Militao as the better defender than the other guy. So, in terms of compatibility, I would go for Lenny Oro top. I would go for Scalvini second. I would go for Antonio Silva, and then Diamande, and then Malik Thiaw after that. So it's a difficult one for us to go for. If we were to pull the trigger right now, I would go for Lenny Oro. I think it's obviously the least risk, because he would cost the cheapest. He would be, you'd have time, you'd have plenty of time to do whatever you want with Lenny Oro, and he's obviously going to have the best mould. But if you want the guy who's going to be the best defender, I'd go for Antonio Silva, because he is the best player out of the lot. But yeah, it depends on what we want as a centre-back next to him. I think it depends. We need to take our time with this. It's a huge decision to make. We need to take our time with it. You can't jump into it, because, let's say next season we're talking about a guy, Lenny Oro then turns into Rafa Varane. We're talking about a guy who's 18 and turns into a similar type player as Rafa Varane. So, I would go for Lenny Oro, but let's see what happens with that decision. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, of course. I think that you're correct. Where would you fit Rafa Maran into this?
Rafa Marin, I think it's difficult to gauge, isn't it? It's difficult to gauge Rafa Marin in terms of this. I think he's already implemented into it. I think he's already in our squad. I don't think he affects what we sign here. I think there will be competition between this Rafa Marin and whoever we sign, but I don't think Rafa Marin affects it, in my opinion.
Yeah, well,
unless he is the guy to partner Militao.
Yeah, because I think it's just maybe 4 centre backs you need, in my opinion, because I think normally the big defenses at our 4-choice centre back or is normally covering at right back or left back, which allows other players to get the opportunity to get more minutes. This time, when Nacho does leave, we'd have 4 natural centre backs who are just centre backs, who want to play through the middle like Alaba or Udiga, who wants to continue playing through the middle. It's not like Nacho, who would just happily fill in anyway, where he would get game time regardless. As a 4-choice centre back, whoever is a 4-choice centre back isn't going to play much, and that's just something we have to accept. Many people would say Nacho is playing a lot of games, but Nacho is playing a lot of games all over the pitch, all over the back line. Not many centre backs will have that opportunity, so I think we'd have to be careful who we select to be a 4-choice centre back. I think that's why, in my opinion, the club maybe might stick to a Spanish player like Rafa. If he continues to do well at Alves, that doesn't mean he's the most. He has the most quality, but I think out of necessity and out of the minutes he's going to get, I think most likely they might just stick with him and then maybe make a big signing in the future.
Yeah, I think that is what we'll do for next season. I think when we pull the trigger, it's going to be in 3, maybe 4 years' time. I think that's going to be the year when we maybe it's going to be before that. Maybe because Alaba declines incredibly quickly, we're going to have to make a splash on a slightly older player, 23. But I think it'll probably take 2, 3, 4 maybe years on this. Then the last player we're going to discuss is Nico Williams. Now, out of this list, apart from Alphonso Davies and Julian Alvarez, I am dead set on us signing Nico Williams. I want us to sign Nico Williams next summer. He is going on a free. He is end of contract. Athletic Club, I don't think we're going to renew it. I don't think Nico Williams is going to renew it. He is a really, really good young player. He has been playing for the Spanish national team for, I think, 2 years now. He's 18 years old. He is an incredible player. I think he's just really, really quick. He fits... Oh, no, he's not 18. He's 21. I took away 3 years there. He is an incredible player. I think he would fit in excellently with our team. I think he'd be an absolute seamless fit on the right wing. If we need to play him, gives us a boost off the bench as well. I think Nico Williams is an absolute excellent player. We're monitoring him for Athletic Club. There's been rumours that Florentino Perez wants to make this team a little bit more Spanish. Nico Williams fits in exactly with that principle for free. He is for free, and I think he is good enough for this team. This is not just buying him for the sake of the fact he's free. He is good enough to play for Real Madrid, in my opinion. He's better than Iñaki Williams was at his age, in my opinion. I think he's better than Iñaki Williams. I think he's quick. He's really good in front of goal. When you need him to be. I think for me, I would pull the trigger on Nico Williams. I would pull the trigger on Alphonso Davies next summer as well. I think Nico Williams, I am dead certain on us signing him, because I think if we don't sign him, I think Barcelona will probably sign him as well. I think that's...
Yeah, because I'm just seeing here that Barcelona have contacted his entourage recently to sign him for a free transfer in June next year. And of course, I'm seeing here that Cristiano is one of his idols as well. So I think one of the reports a couple of months ago was that he would prefer a move to Madrid if we make a move because of Cristiano, which is something that a lot of wingers, which is a purpose or reason why a lot of these wingers would want to sign for Madrid. But if I'm being honest, isn't he more a left winger than a right winger? because when the first rumour came out, I had a look at it, how many games he's played in left wing and right wing, because that's the main concern for me. He's a talented player, but most of his games this season has been in left wing, at the left wing position where Vinicius would normally play. So I highly doubt that he is as effective on the other side than he is on the left, which is of course the main concern. I hope that he is versatile enough to be successful on the right. He's definitely a player. If he can play on the other side as well, I'd be happy to see him at Madrid because he is a talented player. I did make a suggestion a couple of years ago, I think in the 2021 season, no, the 21-22 season, that he could be a good Madrid player. But at that time, he maybe only had one goal and not many people were satisfied with him coming. But he's definitely shown a lot as of late.
Yeah, in terms of the position, he is a right winger. He's played 71 games on the right wing and 22 on the left wing, according to Transfermarkt. So he is a right winger. As such, that some of those may be youth games, but I do think he is primarily a right winger. I think he's playing on the left wing more down to the need of Athletic Club being slightly worse in front of goal. But he's also got 10 caps for Spain. This season he's got 4 assists. I think he fits in perfectly with this team. I think he works on that right wing, and right now he's obviously not going to come in as the starter, but we're going to need depth. At some point we're going to have to invest in some depth, and I think this guy's going to work perfectly for that. I think he is perfect. We need to make this team Spanish at some point. We're going to have to add some more Spanish players, and it's a good start. Nico Williams is a good start for me. I'm dead certain on us signing Nico Williams next summer. He can play on the left wing, like you said as well. He can play well there. But I think he is primarily a right winger. So what are your thoughts on that?
Repeat it first. Quickly, I didn't quite hear the last part.
He is primarily a right winger. He's played most of his games on the right wing.
Oh, well, if that's the case, then I believe that he's going to be an influential player for us. But of course, I would like to sign him, but I think what's going to impact this deal is the fact that there's another player who has a contract expiring at the end of this season. Yeah. And I think that the focus is going to be more on that specific player, who I will not name at this time, and then because I named him earlier in the session as well. And then we might lose out on the opportunity to sign him because the focus would be elsewhere. When they're
do you
young,
think
players,
they directly affect each other? Do you think they directly affect each other? Because I think they will be coming into play different roles. Obviously the player who can't be named is going to be the star man. He's going to be the main man. But Nico Williams is just going to be a squad player.
I believe it does affect each other because if not, then Rodrigo, of course, would then become that guy who can maybe take up the role that maybe Nico Williams would occupy if Rodrigo's coming off the bench. I think Rodrigo is better. And I think that if he comes, then I think Nico Williams would be behind maybe 3 players. And of course, it's difficult to see maybe Madrid, sticking with Nico Williams over some of these guys because they're more talented. They've been doing it for a longer time. So I think Nico Williams could end up being a loser in this deal if he just isn't playing. If he isn't playing much, for him, it's difficult to see him starting at Madrid. That's what I want to say. But he could be an impactful player off the bench. But it's difficult to see him starting like the big games on the big nights. Maybe if someone like Xabi Alonso becomes the coach, then of course he will have more options to play because Alonso is more like a versatile coach who can maybe make a way for more attackers, due to the system that he plays, because he normally attacks at 5 and defends at 5. But for now, under Ancelotti, if Ancelotti is the coach next season, because there's still a possibility that he could be, then I think Nico Williams will not be a good fit. If it's a new coach, then Nico Williams will be a good fit, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that, talking about the coach, let's move on to the final rumour. Roberto De Zerbi. Now, if we don't know, De Zerbi's been absolutely incredible for Brighton. I've watched him week in, week out, they've been one of the joys to watch. They've been absolutely incredible. He's been getting. It's not just the fact that Brighton have an incredible scouting department and all that. They create youngsters. They make these youngsters out of nowhere. They bring them out, and they give them a platform to shine. Basically, it's not just that. He's got guys like Solly March, like Adam Lallana, Danny Welbeck, all these guys who. Let's be honest. I thought Danny Welbeck's career was over. I thought he was absolutely done. I thought Adam Lallana was especially. I thought he was done. Lewis Dunk. I thought he was probably going to be finished. Jason Steele. I thought he was. The only thing Jason Steele was known for, by a lot of people, was the fact he got Sunderland relegated. In those documentaries. He's got all of these guys to become really good Premier League players. That's pretty extraordinary. Now, I do have an issue of Roberto De Zerbi, which is the fact you can't step up from Brighton to Real Madrid. That's the only issue I have with him. It's the fact you can't go from Brighton to Real Madrid. I don't think that's a possibility. As a coach, I don't think that's a possibility. Especially with Xabi Alonso lurking in the corners, doing this for Bayer Leverkusen, because he's been absolutely incredible for Bayer Leverkusen. They haven't lost a game so far this season. I think De Zerbi, he will get a fantastic job, but I just don't think it can be Real Madrid yet. I think he has to make a move first before Real Madrid. I think he's a fantastic manager. He's been one of the best managers in the Premier League, but yeah, I just don't see it. What are your thoughts on De Zerbi?
Yeah, I think he's a good manager, I believe, but yeah, like you're thinking, maybe there would be other options over him. Well, the one option over him so far is Xabi Alonso. And maybe someone like Tuchel if he's available over him, or even Nagelsmann. I would have put over De Zerbi, my
Hansi
opinion.
Flick.
But De Zerbi, pardon me.
Hansi Flick.
For me, I don't think I would put Hansi Flick over him. I know that you are a big fan of Hansi Flick, but after the season when he won the treble at Bayern Munich, I don't think he's fallen down the pecking order season after season. In my opinion, as you can see when he got sacked recently for Germany, I think season after season he hasn't been the same, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. I believe that the other coach who's more tactical and technical to deal with our young players. And in my opinion, I would keep Ancelotti over Flick.
Okay. That's interesting.
For me, last year I wouldn't have said that, because of how the season is going, but how the season was going in the league last year. But if I'm being honest, I don't think there's another coach in the world who can make Bellingham score 10 plus goals. Maybe who can get that. Even Zidane had Valverde on the wing. He was young at the time, but Ancelotti had Valverde scoring 10 plus goals. He has Bellingham scoring 10 plus goals in in just 10 games. If I'm thinking of that, I think I'll put Ancelotti over Flick. Of what he's doing for our players. Even if Ancelotti stays one more season, he's still building a platform and making some players who better, like key players better for when the new coach does come. So I believe if Hansi Flick is available and Ancelotti isn't, and Xabi Alonso isn't available, I would prefer Ancelotti to stay another season over taking Flick when we can just wait for Xabi Alonso. I think Ancelotti is a perfect coach, to bridge the gap between Alonso. Between getting Xabi Alonso, because as you can see this season, he's actually trying to implement a more fast tempo, high press system. It's not perfect, as you know, because it's not his game, but at least he's trying, and hopefully it builds a platform to when someone like Xabi Alonso does come. Because I think if Flick comes, maybe it can be just 2 seasons. If things go bad, I think the coach would want to pull the trigger on him to get him sacked. But if it's someone like Xabi Alonso, I think players would be a bit more patient, because in other seasons Ancelotti would have been sacked, in my opinion, after the City game, after the some of the losses to Barcelona, some of the league performances, how far behind we were against Barcelona. I think in the past Ancelotti would have been sacked. I think Perez is now being a bit more patient, and that's why I believe someone like Xabi Alonso, who the coach would say, okay, we give him more chances because of his history, because of his style, because of the name. and not because of I think he's going to do well with work well with the players. I think Perez will not, pull the trigger if maybe things go bad for a couple of months like he did at Lopetegui and Santiago Solari, and he might do it Hansi Flick if things would go well.
Yeah, obviously Xabi Alonso's the number one choice, but I think Hansi Flick, it just makes things automatic, and I just want that. It might be a little bit boring, but I just think that at Real Madrid would be incredible. I think just having that, the automatic nature that Bayern Munich have. I think that would be incredible to have at Real Madrid. I think that would be. It would be it is one of my dreams to have that around, just to have that ultimacy. I don't know if that could ever come, but I think with Hansi Flick that would be as close to that as you could probably get, to be totally honest. So that's the reason why I think Hansi Flick is one of my favourites for the job, but I'm not sure if Perez matches that. To be totally honest, I don't think Hansi Flick's in his thoughts, but we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. We'll obviously have greater discussions about that in the coming months. When it comes closer to 2024, when we're talking about Ancelotti maybe going to Brazil. Ancelotti's done an incredible job this season. He's had a squad which doesn't have a striker. Has serious centre back depth issues. He's been given. He's lost the best goalkeeper in the world and been given Kepa in return. He doesn't really have a right back, who's young, energetic. He's been given left backs who, offer one thing or another. Either a really good attacking left back or a really good defensive left back. He's been given these buckets of problems, but he's dealt with it fantastically. I still think Ancelotti should go after the season. I think should be his final season. Even if he wins the treble, he should ride off into the sunset with Brazil. But we'll see what happens. Yeah, it's going to get closer. We're going to talk more about that.
Yeah, after the first season, I was a bit skeptical of Ancelotti after the 21-22 season because, like I've always said, we won the league against a poor Barcelona team and we didn't fully take advantage of it in the past. And he won the league, then he won the Champions League. And last season, I think my opinion kind of softened on him because, like I always say, if he would have told us when he returned that we would win all available trophies in his first two seasons, and he would stay for a third one after winning all available trophies in his first two seasons, we would all sign up for it. So if we would give us the solutions, the stipulation that he's not going to sign a world-class winger, we're not going to get Mbappe, we're going to lose Benzema, and we are still going to be competing at the top with Hoslu as our striker, then of course no other coach in the world, in my opinion, could make that work.
Maybe Zidane. Maybe
Zidane. But I think with Zidane, he needed guys like Cristiano to get past in the Champions League.
Yeah, not in the Champions League. No, I mean that Champions League season where we were playing in the Alfredo Di Stefano, I think he was damned that season. He only had Benzema to score him goals. So
yeah, I think you have a fair point there. And he actually gave Vinicius the opportunity over Hazard at the ending of that season, which was something I really appreciated that Zidane did. Even though I don't think Zidane.
And he had a horrific list of injuries as well that season as well. Let's not forget.
Yeah, so I would give Zidane that benefit of the doubt as well. But I think back to Ancelotti, I think what he did in the first two seasons and what he's doing this season, I don't think there are many other coaches in the world, let me put it like that, who can come in. That's why I say I would keep Ancelotti over Hansi Flick, given our situation at Madrid, with the players that we have, with the options in attack that we have. I think Ancelotti is making something work that you wouldn't really say would work in many other places, if I'm being honest. It's difficult, that a striker would be Hoslu and Vinicius and Rodrigo and just Diaz, and then Bellingham coming in as well to play almost as a second striker and scoring that many goals. I don't think any other coach should do that, and that's one of the reasons why my opinion has softened on him. It did last season, and I was happy to see him stay. But why I said that he should have left is because for him, not more for him, not us, because I believe that if he goes to Brazil, it's a good opportunity for him. I think he's achieved a lot in football at club level and after Madrid. Like he said as well, there isn't another club he'd want to go to, and I think that's right. After Madrid, it's going to be a successful stint at Madrid. At the end of the season, whatever happens, the headlines that I would put, that many players would put, Ancelotti leaves Real Madrid. If he goes to Brazil, Ancelotti leaves Real Madrid. That's one of the best coaches in world football after a successful final stint at Madrid, because it was successful. Not many coaches win all titles in 4 years, 5 years. He won it in 2. He's doing well in his third so far. So he's going to leave with nothing else to show that he doesn't have to prove anything to anyone. And of course, going to national football will maybe be for him to maybe end his career.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think he should definitely take that Brazil job. It's just, he is perfect for it. But yeah, let's see what happens there. That is it for today, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you liked any of the players, let me know in the comments. Tell me which of these players you would sign. But that is it for today. Like and subscribe, obviously, and I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.